In the universe of Warhammer 40,000, a single unchecked Psyker can doom a world, while the average citizen never even glimpses such power. Across the galaxy, humanity hunts its own kind, plucking rare Psykers from frightened families, feeding thousands every day to the Emperor just to keep the Imperium alive. But for every sanctioned asset, an untold number slip through, risking demonic possession or catastrophic warp storms. Today we're breaking down every Psyker power level, from the nearly undetectable to the legendary Alpha Plus, and exposing the terrifying consequences that come with each step up the scale. Why does the Imperium fear the gifts it can't survive without? The answer begins in the heart of the galaxy itself. The galaxy of Warhammer 40,000 is not just big. It's a sprawling nightmare of endless war, ancient grudges, and cosmic horrors. Imagine a place where entire planets vanish overnight, where alien empires plot extinction on a scale that makes Earth's worst disasters look like a bad day at the office. In this universe, every world is just a speck, and every life is a candle flickering in a hurricane. But the real terror isn't just the guns or the monsters. It's the warp, a dimension of raw emotion, chaos, and madness that sits just beneath reality, always hungry, always waiting. The warp is the source of every psychic power, a sea of thought and feeling so intense that it can twist time, erase memories, or call nightmares into the flesh. Every moment, it churns with the rage, hope, and fear of trillions. Some call it the Imperium. Most just pray they never see it. The warp doesn't follow rules. It feeds on emotion, and in turn, it gives back power, sometimes as a whisper, sometimes as a tidal wave. For the Eldar, it's a birthright and a curse. Their entire civilization is built on psychic ability, but every spell risks disaster. For humanity, it's worse. Most humans have no psychic spark at all. They go about their lives, never knowing how close they are to annihilation. But a few are born different, marked by the warp, able to sense or even shape its tides. These Psykers are rare, and they terrify everyone around them. A single mistake can open a door, letting the horrors of the warp spill into real space. Entire cities have burned for less. This is why Psykers matter. In a galaxy where the warp is both the greatest weapon and the deadliest threat, those who can touch it are both a blessing and a curse. The Imperium needs Psykers to survive, but it fears them more than any alien. The fate of worlds hangs on the thin line between control and chaos, and the warp never stops watching. The Imperium doesn't do half measures when it comes to Psykers. Once a psychic spark is detected, the bureaucracy kicks into high gear. Every world, from hive planets to backwater mining colonies, is under constant surveillance. Witch hunts, psychic screening, even astropathic eavesdropping. If someone's unlucky enough to show signs, there's no hiding. Local authorities, sometimes backed up by the Sisters of Silence, round up the marked and haul them away for containment. The real machinery of control arrives with the Black Ships. These are massive, fortress-like vessels run by the Adeptus Astra Telepathica, staffed with psychic nulls and enough firepower to flatten a city. When a Black Ship comes to port, it's not a celebration, it's a purge. Entire populations can vanish overnight, swept up in the Psyker tithe. The process is cold, methodical, and terrifying. Each captive is locked down in psychically warded cells, surrounded by null fields and suppression tech. The Sisters of Silence walk the halls, their very presence snuffing out psychic outbursts. There's no comfort, just endless tests, interrogations, and the knowledge that most will never see their home again. The journey to Terra is a gauntlet: medical exams, psychic trials, and constant surveillance. Any sign of instability or corruption, and it's a quick execution or a one-way trip out an airlock. Only a fraction survive to reach the Golden Throne. Once on Terra, the fate of each Psyker is decided by a rigid system: sacrifice, sanctioning, or death. The unlucky majority are fed into the Emperor's rituals, their souls burned to keep the Astronomicon lit. The rare few who pass the tests are sanctioned, trained, and maybe, just maybe, trusted with a role in the Imperium. But before any of that happens, every Psyker is measured, sorted, and stamped with a grade. The Imperium uses a Greek letter system, a ladder of power that decides who lives, who dies, and who gets to serve. And on that ladder, the difference between a whisper and a storm can mean everything. At the very bottom of the Imperium's Psyker scale, you've got zeros, regular humans, no psychic spark, just trying to survive the usual horrors of 40k life. But being a zero doesn't mean you're safe. The warp doesn't care if you're psychic or not. Even the most ordinary person can end up haunted, possessed, or just plain unlucky when the veil gets thin. That's the baseline. Billions of people, all technically vulnerable, all completely in the dark. Then there's the next step up. Omicron, Xi, Nu, Mu, Lambda, and Kappa. These are the barely there Psykers, the ones who don't even know they're different half the time. Maybe they always seem to win at dice, or their bad moods cause light bulbs to pop. Sometimes in a crisis, something weird happens, an impossible escape, a sudden sense of danger, or a burst of strength that can't be explained. Most of the time, nobody notices. Sometimes it's just called luck. But the Adeptus Astra Telepathica keeps records, and if someone starts bending probability a little too often, the local authorities might start asking questions. The real problem? These minor sparks can still attract trouble. Under enough stress, even a Kappa grade might accidentally open a door to the warp, usually with disastrous results. There's no official tally of how many Omicron or Lambda Psykers exist. The numbers are buried in bureaucracy, lost in a galaxy of paperwork and paranoia. But the Imperium knows enough to keep watch. Random audits, psychic screenings, and secret files stack up on every world. Even the smallest flicker of psychic potential is a cause for concern, because in the 41st millennium, the difference between a zero and a Kappa can be the difference between a bad day and a citywide catastrophe. Iota, Theta, and Eta grades are where the Imperium starts to see actual value, if you can call it that, in a human Psyker. These aren't just random weirdos who get lucky at cards or make the lights flicker when they're angry. No, these are the ones who can sense thoughts, maybe nudge a mind here or there, or even throw a psychic punch if they really focus. But raw power isn't enough. If you want to survive, you have to make it through the sanctioning process. That means months of drills, psychic dampeners, and ritual humiliation. Basically, the Emperor's way of making sure you won't snap and turn half a regiment inside out. Those who pass get stamped as Sanctionites. They're not free, not by a long shot, but they're alive and technically useful. The Adeptus Astra Telepathica sticks them in squads, trains them to work together, and runs them through endless exercises in control. A Sanctionite's life is all about discipline, channeling warp energy without letting it bite back. Squad tactics are drilled in day after day. One Psyker relays messages, another scans for threats, while the rest keep their heads down and hope nobody notices them. Telepathic relay is a big deal here. Sanctionites can form psychic chains, passing thoughts across battlefields faster than any voxcaster. It's not glamorous, but it keeps armies moving and commanders alive. Of course, all this training comes with a price. The warp doesn't care about teamwork, and one slip can mean disaster for the whole squad. That's why even Iota or Eta Psykers are watched like hawks. If they start to lose control, the Astra Telepathica has protocols ready, and if things get out of hand, there's always a bigger, meaner Psyker, or a bolt pistol, waiting in the wings. Now we hit the heavyweights, Zeta, Epsilon, Delta, and Gamma grades. This is where Psykers stop being just a weird squad addition and start turning battles upside down. At these levels, you're talking about Primaris Psykers, those rare individuals who can throw tanks with their minds, set the air on fire, or drop a force shield strong enough to shrug off artillery. A Gamma-grade Primaris Psyker on the field isn't just a support unit. They're a walking disaster waiting to happen, for friend and foe alike. Take Garen Vauxhall at the Siege of Tranche. Gamma level, sanctioned, and still nearly got half his own regiment killed with a misfired telekinetic blast. But when the demons came pouring in, he was the only thing standing between the Cadian line and total annihilation. He raised a barrier that turned warp spawn to ash, redirected incoming shells, and held the line until reinforcements arrived. Commanders handed out medals and issued formal censure in the same breath, because that's what you get with power at this scale. Primaris Psykers don't get off easy. Most have undergone surgeries, psychic limiters, and layers of mental conditioning just to keep their minds from snapping. Some wear psychic hoods or inhibitor helms. Others are kept in warded chains between battles. The Adeptus Astra Telepathica doesn't trust them one bit, and neither do their own comrades. There's no such thing as a truly safe Primaris Psyker, just one who hasn't blown up yet. But when the enemy brings out the monsters, demons, or worse, nobody complains about having a Gamma or Delta on their side. Their powers can swing the fate of entire campaigns, but every victory comes with the risk of a warp breach, a psychic backlash, or just plain old insanity. In the grimdark of the far future, that's about as good as it gets. Beta Grade Psykers are the Imperium's ultimate gamble. These are the ones who walk the razor's edge between weapon and catastrophe, one step below apocalypse, one step above what any sane bureaucracy should allow. The records do not give names. Most betas are just case numbers in Inquisition dossiers, filed under potential asset or pending termination. Officially, only a handful survive sanctioning every few generations. Maybe 1 in millions makes it through the tests without snapping or burning out. That is not an exaggeration. For every beta who survives, there is a mountain of paperwork on the ones who did not. Betas can read the future in the warp, twist fate on a planetary scale, or shatter enemy command structures with a thought. Commanders love them when things go bad, because a beta on the field can turn a lost campaign into a miracle. But nobody ever relaxes around them. Even the Inquisition keeps backup plans for backup plans, rituals, null fields, and on more than one occasion, a bolt pistol pointed at the back of the beta's head. No amount of training guarantees safety. The Charnel Scrolls tell the story of Arkell Danust, a beta who passed every test, survived every ritual, and still fell to chaos after years of loyal service. That is the trade-off: unmatched strategic power, paid for with constant vigilance and a willingness to pull the trigger if things go sideways. There is a reason betas are legends and cautionary tales at the same time. They are the last stop before the abyss. The strongest Psykers the Imperium dares to use, but never, ever trusts. Alpha Psykers are the reason the Imperium keeps a finger on the self-destruct button. These are the ones who can shatter a city with a thought, tear open the warp, or twist armies into puppets. Officially, Alpha Grade means kill on sight. There's no talk of redemption, just a red flag and a death sentence. The Inquisition doesn't even bother with a trial. Instead, they send in the Officio Assassinorum, and if things have really gone sideways, it's a Culexus assassin that gets the call. Culexus are blanks, soulless, psychic black holes, and the only thing that makes an alpha hesitate. When a confirmed alpha is loose, the kill order comes straight from the High Lords or the most senior Inquisitors. Capture isn't even on the table. The mission is total erasure, because letting an alpha run wild is how you get demons pouring through the sky and hive cities turning inside out. There's no official count of how many times this has happened, but the records that survive are ugly. Entire populations mind-controlled, continents fractured, and the aftermath scrubbed from Imperial history. But Alpha Plus is a whole other league. These are the Psykers who make reality itself. Blink. The Emperor of Mankind is the only stable Alpha Plus ever recorded. Every other Alpha Plus is a walking cataclysm, a being who can summon armies of demons, obliterate titans, or wipe out entire sectors just by existing. The Imperium's answer? Exterminatus, if necessary. If a Culexus fails, the planet burns. No one gets a second chance at this level. The Emperor stands alone, a singularity of psychic power, holding back the darkness by sheer will, while every other Alpha Plus is either dead, missing, or a cautionary tale. This is the end of the ladder. Beyond here, there's only myth, annihilation, or the Emperor himself. The Imperium's entire survival plan leans on Psykers, and not just for the flashy stuff like battle magic or mind bullets. Without sanctioned Psykers, the Imperium can't even talk to itself. Astropaths send messages across the stars, and navigators guide ships through the warp using the Astronomicon, a psychic beacon powered by thousands of sacrificed souls. Every interstellar fleet, every planetary defense, every supply line depends on these fragile links. But every time a Psyker reaches out to the warp, there's a chance something reaches back. That's the catch. The same power that keeps the Imperium running could tear it apart in a heartbeat. The bureaucracy, the rituals, the endless paranoia, they're all just desperate attempts to balance on that knife edge, hoping the next message or jump through the warp isn't the last one anyone ever makes. The Emperor of Mankind stands as the one exception to every rule the Imperium has ever written about Psykers. Alpha Plus is supposed to mean uncontrollable, doomed, a walking apocalypse waiting to happen. But the Emperor isn't just stable. He's the reason humanity still exists at all. No one else has ever come close. Every other Alpha Plus has ended in disaster or been wiped out before they could become one. The Emperor alone holds back the horrors of the warp with sheer will, lighting the Astronomicon and keeping the Imperium running, even half dead on the Golden Throne. Nobody knows how. Maybe it's genius, maybe it's something older and stranger than anyone can explain. In a universe built on fear and suspicion, the Emperor's power is both miracle and mystery, a question the Imperium can't answer but has no choice but to trust. Across more than 40 million inhabited worlds, Psykers remain rare. Less than 1 in a million humans displays measurable psychic ability, as documented by the Adeptus Astra Telepathica. This documentary has shown how the Imperium classifies these individuals from 0 to Alpha Plus, each grade defined by strict criteria based on ability, stability, and threat. Sanctioned Psykers are essential for communication and navigation, yet every record confirms the dangers they pose, even at the lowest levels. Many files on Alpha and Alpha Plus Psykers remain sealed by the Inquisition, and details on their ultimate fate, aside from the Emperor's unique case, are not publicly available. Today, the Imperium's survival depends on this fragile balance, using Psykers as tools while fearing their corruption. The Emperor's standing as the only stable Alpha Plus is a documented fact, but how this stability is possible remains officially unexplained. In the 41st millennium, the paradox endures. Psykers are both the Imperium's greatest vulnerability and its last line of defense.